Hi, everybody. Sorry, I didn't realize I hadn't finished our section in the book last night. So here we go for version 2. We're in lesson 1.1a, textbook guided notes, share and share alike. So I'm going to go to the part where I left off. And here we go. So another characteristic of life is that organisms have to be able to reproduce, meaning make new organisms. There's two types of reproduction. There's asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. In science, most vocabulary words can be broken down into Greek and Latin root words and prefixes and suffixes. So if you see the prefix a, it means without or not. So asexual reproduction is without two different organisms. So in sexual reproduction, you have two parents, and those two parents have what are called gametes. So in humans, the female, it's the egg, and the male, it's the sperm. And those two come together to form a new individual. The genetic information in sexual reproduction is not the same in the offspring. So the offspring have different DNA than their mom and different DNA than their dad. They're half of their mom and half of their dad, but their DNA is not the same. This has several different advantages that we will talk about later on in the year, but it allows mainly for genetic variation within our populations. So you have two parents and they combine to form a new genetic individual. So the offspring are not genetically identical to the parent. Asexual reproduction is the opposite, in which you only have one parent. There's not a change in the DNA. There's not any variation. These are supposed to be gifts. They're not playing. I don't know why. But we have the starfish that it can break a leg off, and the leg that is broken off can turn into a new starfish, or it can start growing new buds where the leg fell off. You have organisms, I'm sorry, that undergo budding. And you can see the hydra down on the bottom. It is growing a new little organism that's identical to the parent. And then that little organism pops off, and there we go. We have two organisms. So the thing to remember that is in asexual reproduction, there's no genetic variation, and the daughter organisms are identically the same as the parent cell or organism. Usually, one advantage to this is that the organisms can reproduce very quickly. So make a lot of offspring very fast to increase survival. But with that, they have no variation. So if there's a change in their environment and they don't have any differences in their DNA, a whole population can be wiped out. Again, I don't know why my gifts are playing. Oh, there we go. I got to click on a slide. So in the top, you have bacteria that are divided. And so bacteria are said to have exponential growth. So you start with 1, then you have 2, and then you have 4, and then you have 8, and then it just keeps multiplying, and you can have millions of bacteria within a small amount of time. In the bottom GIF, you have a euglena that is splitting apart longitudinally, is what it's called, longitudinal fission. And so it will eventually split all the way up and eventually be two euglenas. Again, one parent. The two euglenas that are going to form are going to be identically the same as the beginning one. Same thing with the bacteria. Each one of those bacteria are identically the same. So here are some more fun GIFs of the Hydra. It's always fun to actually see real things. I know a lot of teachers just show pictures from the textbook and stuff, but with technology nowadays, we can actually look at these things happening in a very small file or a GIF. In the top right, oh my goodness, you see that you have yeast that are budding. And so yeast, you are probably familiar with, in that they are what help make dough rise in bread. And so you can see the two hydras. They start a little bud, and that bud grows into another organism, and then eventually it will fall off and start growing all on its own. Now here's for the fun part, regeneration. We already talked about the starfish, and so you can see in the upper picture where the starfish had an accident, got hit by a rock, got attacked, and now we have, instead of just one starfish, we have two. In the bottom picture, we have a flatworm. And flatworms are, I don't really like them. They're not really well fun. You're going to find them in musty, ugly water or in dead, decaying wood that's out in the forest. But you can actually cut a planaria into pieces, and each of those pieces will grow into a new flatworm. You'll see a lot of famous pictures where they cut the planarian head right down the center, and then you have a planarian with two heads. They're not really my favorite. So your number 8 asks you to underline ways in which organisms reproduce. Remember, the two key ways are sexual, where you have variation, two parents and the offspring are not identical genetically to the parents, and then you have asexual, in which the new organisms are genetically identical to the parent, and there's only one parent. And so your next question asks you to check the boxes to identify which offspring are identical to the parent or parents, and which offspring are identical. I hope this one is pretty easy for you, and I hope these are two vocabulary words that you won't have a lot of trouble with. Next, we have the need for materials and energy. Everything comes at a cost. If you want to go to the movies, you have to spend your money. Well, your body has things like money in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. It's the energy molecule in your body. And the way that we energize our ATP is by ingesting food. And our digestive system breaks down the food, and at the molecular level, we take glucose, and every sugar we break off from the glucose, we get ATP. So we need that. Your heart needs energy to beat. Your eyelashes and their eyes need energy for them to, flutter so you don't get dust. Growing new skin cells takes energy. Your lungs exchanging carbon dioxide and oxygen and keeping your blood at nice levels costs energy. So you have to eat. You have to have energy. Metabolism is a vocabulary word, and it's simply all the chemical reactions within an organism. A lot of people nowadays, especially young people, have tried to go for the fast energy. You really need to have a balanced diet and not just eat a bunch of carbohydrates or a bunch of soda or a bunch of caffeine. Or I know that a lot of kids that I've known about that we're stuck on energy drinks like Red Bull. Well, the problem when you're young, when you drink a bunch of those and it's not in moderation, is those are causing your heart to beat faster, and your heart is actually a muscle. So when you're growing and developing and you're causing your heart to beat more than it's supposed to, you can get in a large heart, and that can cause you problems not only in your early adulthood, but later on in life. So balance is the key, folks. Balance. So metabolism, all the chemical reactions within your body. So this is kind of funny. A lot of times you hear older people joke that, and I joke about it too. My husband could say, I'm on a diet, and he loses 5 or 10 pounds. I can say I'm on a diet. I can go to the gym. I can exercise every day, and it takes me 2 months to lose 1 pound. And so metabolism is, quite a funny thing in folks, and a lot of things can influence it. The next thing is growth and development. For something to be alive, it has to grow. And as it grows, it develops or differentiates. So here we have different stages of development within a tomato. And so the little green things are actually leftover parts of the flower that was pollinated to make the fruit. And so you can see how it has gone through a change in size, which is growth. And then you can see the development by the changes in color. And that is also going to have some changes inside the tomato too. You've developed, when you popped out as a bouncing baby, you have changed. A lot of people will say things like, toddlers, they can bounce around and never get hurt, never break a bone. Or, don't worry if that baby, fell over. They got, soft bones. And it's actually true. Your bones are more flexible when you're younger. And as you grow older, calcium builds up in your bones to make them stronger. And so it is true. When you're little, you can probably fall down and not get hurt so bad. But when you're 80 and you fall down, your bones are going to be more brittle. And so as you age, grow in size, you also have different parts of you that are going to develop or differentiate. A lot of people like to talk about metamorphosis. And so in the picture up on the left, this GIF is going to be a butterfly that is going through differentiation within inside of the cocoon. And then eventually it bursts through the cocoon and becomes a new butterfly. So those cells are changing as the caterpillar is in its cocoon. In your body, you have stem cells that can change and differentiate into the things that they need to be. That's why they're so important to you. So this is kind of a joke because stem cells actually can become any one of the cells that you need in your body. And of course, we talked about the butterfly, so we have to talk about the frog. I know you guys probably did the life cycle of frog when you were in elementary school, and how the frog grows and develops from the eggs all the way to the new froggerooey. And so your question number 10 asks you to list 3 activities that you have done today that require energy. And I would like for you guys to actually put thought into these questions. I take time and I read what you write and I give you feedback. And so take some time and actually apply yourself in your answers on these things. Think outside of the box. try to think at the molecular level or inside of your body, or, try to find something that someone else didn't think of. And then you have the question about the frog, and it wants you to tell you stuff about the frog and each stage of its development. So, how did it differentiate? How did it grow? Okay, that's the end for that part.